Welcome to Sophia Rising, a space with no walls. I am one of your hosts, Michaela Aphrodite, and this is
Athena Alea.
yes. So today what we're going to be doing is we're going to kind of talk about our rebranding, and we're going to talk about how we are, kind of being represented slightly different and the reasons why. One of the reasons why we've been kind of quiet for a little while, we haven't done any videos, is because we've been in very strong communion with the divine. We've been spending our time together, actually really like making that complete connection with our higher selves. And what we're going to be doing is really kind of invoking that energy before we do our podcast. So, as you've probably seen with other people, um, people like Abraham Hicks or Bashar, all we're doing is we're pulling our higher self energy into our being so that we can talk from a higher level. Um, for me, I recently discovered that in my personal collective, I'm connected to Aphrodite. And there's also some angelic energy inside of my higher self collective. So this is the name that my higher self kind of came to me as, and that's Michaela Aphrodite. So I'm going to kind of push that over to Athena and let her explain to you like the reason for her rebranding.
So, I'd like to first start out with, a pretty famous line in the Western mystery traditions, which is by names and images are all powers awakened and reawakened. This is to me, a highly applicable line for, essentially what Michaela and I are going through with respect to our personal transformation. In the Western mystery traditions and in many traditions, when you get initiated into that particular sphere of sensation or religion or group, oftentimes people take on new names. This also, is applicable when maybe you take on a new position of a responsibility, you take on a title, right? The names essentially are symbols that communicate to the world essentially, what it is your role is. And as Michaela and I have developed, you know, in ourselves, with respect to the platform that we introduced last year, certain changes in our consciousness have occurred. And one thing that I really love about working with Michaela is that, we have our collective experience together, and then we have individual experiences. But when we come back together, we talk about them, and we find that essentially both her and I are, oftentimes just getting like the same information, but in different ways. And so it's, confirms for us when we come
Mhm.
together that what we're receiving essentially from the spirit, is true. And then we watch it happen too, right? We don't just take things, at face value. When we hear information, we receive information, we wait for it to be verified. And, both Michaela and I believe very strongly that God is not trying to hide itself from humans. God wants to communicate with us. The divine just has its own language that one needs to be able to learn and understand. And so we've been working, very strongly together, very deeply each week. We get together and do, spiritual work together. And, out of this spiritual work, both her and I, in our own separate ways, received essentially, a name that we are meant to utilize in the public sphere to represent essentially what our message is going to be. For myself, Athena Alea is a moniker that represents both wisdom, with respect just to the name Athena, wisdom and protection, and essentially the ability to see clearly through illusion. It's a name that when utilized helps a person to break free from illusion. Like I would consider very similar to Ganesh. Alea is another moniker, actually, a variation of Athena as well. The goddess Alea was worshipped in a certain part of Peloponnese region in Greece, and she was a protector as well of the particular people there. And that region was also associated with, the worship of Zeus as well, which the ancient Greeks saw as like a God the Father type of entity, right?
Mm,
So, the name together, Athena, Leia, essentially is meant to project the idea of wisdom being utilized, not only to break free, from illusion so that a person can live within truth, but also to utilize that name to protect people, to protect knowledge, to protect wisdom as we go through our transformation, in the world. And that's one of the things that we'll talk about here soon, is, the transformations that are occurring in the world, and, how the energy that, we're seeing is trying to get us to unify together collectively, what I would say would be the first time in known human history. On that on that note, I'm going to turn it back over to Michaela Aphrodite for her to kind of speak and talk about the energy behind her particular name.
thank you so much. It was really interesting when I went through the initiation of water. I actually, when Gabriel came to me, he called me Michaela. And I was really surprised by that. He was like, "Well, welcome. I'm proud of you, Michaela." And I was like, interesting. It's it's kind of like the female version of Michael, just kind of like Michelle is the female version of Michael. But the actual name of the Archangel Michael is actually Michael. And when he called me Michaela, I was kind of like, interesting. Are you trying to tell me that I'm like the female version of the archangel? I had no idea at the time. And as you and I started doing this work, and then I progressed, into my initiation into fire, um, I started to work with Mikael. And as I was doing that, and then I started working with you doing this communion, and I started pulling down, from that higher self energy. Aphrodite became extremely present in my life. And she wanted to really express herself from the aspect of love, and love of all things, like really show the world that love is the way. And there was this interesting combination that I was kind of like seeing. And at one time, uh, I was told that it's a collective consciousness, that my soul is, or what you would call your higher self. Your higher self is a collective consciousness. So in that collective, there is angelic energy as well as goddess energy, and Aphrodite's in that area. That's really kind of how it kind of came to me. It's sort of like, instead of I, it became we. And it's like, we're here, but they're talking as one. And that may be really, really confusing to a lot of people, but if you think about all the experiences you've had through multiple lifetimes, there's a lot of different energies in that collective. And those collectives can come to you individually, or they can come to you all together. So this is sort of like a collective energy of my higher self, and it expresses itself through purpose, passion, and love. And that's kind of what I'm representing, is that purpose and passion of uniting through love, if that makes any sense. Yeah, so that's basically what it is. And in the future, as we're doing our Sophia Rising, we're going to be really hitting those areas of love and wisdom. And pretty much everything that we talk about is going to come from those angles, going to be that love and wisdom. If so, I hope that explains it all. I don't know if you have anything else to add. This is primarily just to kind of explain our rebranding. Like, what is this, Michelle? I don't know. I don't understand. you know.
No, I think it's good. And, I just want to recognize to our audience, maybe some of the concepts we talk about seem very strange. One thing I just want to know is, the experiences that Michaela and I have, we are not trying to impress those on anyone, right? We're not saying like, look, just because we're having these, that means you should be having them too. What we have come to find in our work is that this is a period of time for us, but we also believe for humans in general to be completely genuine, to be brave, to be courageous, to strip away the insecurities and the fears, and to truly be your most genuine self. And for Michaela, she is experiencing in her consciousness this collective, essentially, that is harmonizing itself into like one energy, but from which she can draw from different voices. For myself, I have been experiencing, a very strong relationship with the goddess Athena, as well as, the solar god Apollo, as well as they both teach me more about the process of, enlightenment and gaining true wisdom, and utilizing that in conjunction with love to help transform, you know, ourselves, and to give us guidance to help other people transform to their highest potential, to be, their most potent version of themselves. And so, if there's an underlying message here for everyone in terms of, our rebranding, our name change, or anything, it's we want to inspire you to find yourself. Who are you?
Mm,
And to be brave enough to express that self. And then, in addition, through the expression of your genuine self, be able to utilize that maturely to harmonize with other people, to be able to have resilience in your life, to have conversations that may be difficult with others, and be able to positively transform that, not to reject pain and hurt and all these things, but to understand what it is, and then to help elevate it, to what its true purpose is, right? Um, you know, People have a lot of questions about pain and warfare and all of this, suffering in the world. Many people see it as very unnecessary. There's some really terrible things that have happened throughout human history that are happening today, that happen to each of us individually. How do we reconcile that? The only way truly to reconcile those those concepts and ideas in our lives is to elevate our consciousness. People
mhm.
want to know how to end warfare. They want to know how to have true peace. People believe it's not possible. And I say to that, I think that's bullshit.
Mm.
Uh,
I love how you just spit it out. That's true. Absolutely.
and why? Because each human being has the potential to clarify and purify their consciousness and to elevate it. And when you elevate your consciousness, divisive ideas can become reconciled. People don't feel the need to be trapped in their ego, to force their point. People are no longer afraid. You can look to the various mystical traditions throughout the world and see, in the readings and writings and experiences of the mystics, these, even though the paths they took to get to these higher states of consciousness may have been different, they express the same experiences of unification, internal peace, being able to reconcile divisive ideas, even developing their consciousness to the point where they develop supernatural powers because they have overcome the laws of the material world, right? And part of that is being able to essentially look at someone that would call themselves your enemy and be able to say and do the right things in that moment to transform the situation. So just think about it. If we all had the power to do that, is it impossible to think that we could have peace on earth? I,
Yeah.
I I don't believe so. I think the only reason we don't have peace on earth is because humans collectively believe it's impossible. And through that egregore that continues to get empowered, we live that truth. And I believe we can live a different truth, which is one of peace and harmony.
Yeah, I actually am kind of glad that you brought this up because it really kind of ties into what I was about to say. Um, so let me I'm going to back up and then I'm going to kind of hit your point because I think there's a little bit of stuff that I need to kind of fill in here. Um, this is not about me claiming to be the incarnate of Aphrodite. I'm also not claiming that that I'm not. I'm what I'm saying is that this is an energy and that I'm pulling into myself, okay? That my personal soul is from. And what where I think that there needs to be a lot of clarity here is I am not saying that Aphrodite walked the earth. I'm also saying that I am not also saying that she didn't or she did. What I'm saying is that is an energy. Okay. And what happens is that when people put enough thought and energy into something, it becomes its own consciousness. Okay. And that consciousness has been existing for a long time because people have put a lot of energy into it. And so you can take something like let's say hypothetically King Arthur. Everybody knows that that's a story that was kind of made up. However, if enough people believe in it and they put that energy into it, then that consciousness becomes alive. And it's almost like we are creators and we are creators of something like that. So this consciousness is a real consciousness that's pulling into my spirit sensation, right? And and so like moving it over to what you just said, you're talking about a consciousness that's been created by the world of suffering, okay? And you're calling it an algogore, okay? But that algogore create it becomes a consciousness in itself and it's alive and it's leading the world a certain way. And what we're talking about is if enough people come together in the spirit of love and wisdom that we can create a new consciousness that spreads over the world. Does that you're over here smiling. I'm like I'm like,
I am.
what's going on?
I just witnessed a very interesting phenomenon, which is uh, you said egregore. The word is egregore,
Oh,
but you said
right.
egregore. But no, the reason I'm smiling is because I love it actually. So just as an FYI to the audience, both Michaela and I are neurodivergent. We're not neurotypical. We both have our own things. I have ADHD. We have learning disorders. Sometimes we'll
Dyslexia.
but I but sometimes just like in this conversation, like what just happened here is that almost as like the spirit came through to muddle the tongue to bring a message, right? And to me, that message is this: an egregore is essentially an algorithm that we create, right? Intellectually.
Mhm.
And it creates a fabric, right, that people are clothed in, essentially. We all have our own individual perspectives, but there is a collective perspective too in the
That's true.
world.
That's true.
And you can have smaller egregores and larger egregores, right? And they kind of make their own little Venn diagrams essentially together, and that's what creates the fabric or network. But really, when it comes down to it, it's essentially an egregore is a programming that that comes into place, and then people bring it to life essentially, right?
Mhm.
It is a programming that we bring to life. and give energy to. And then at some point, we forget, right? We fall asleep essentially to the understanding that that's just a programming. We believe we are conditioned to it for so long. We just think that's the way. We don't even question it. It's just
Well,
the way it is.
yeah, and what's interesting that I've noticed, and we're gonna get into this a lot deeper in our next podcast here, but, what I've noticed is, there's this, rhythm that started being created, I would say, right around the time, that when Trump was running for president the first time, maybe just a little bit before that, I started noticing that division started happening. And there was this energy that was created, and and it wasn't just over the election, it started hitting all areas. You started noticing, um, a lot of people, like, coming out, like, Black Lives Matter, and people, started fighting over politics, and now they're really hitting it hard over religion. And so there's this violent, separation of this energy that's, like, coming in and trying to, like, push things apart so that people are separate and fighting, and that particular energy has a really strong consciousness over the world. And and so what we're doing here is we're really trying to get people on board, okay? We call this the title of this is We Rise Together. Overall, the YouTube, channel is called We Rise Together. Sorry, I said this wrong. The YouTube channel is called We Rise Together for a reason, because the only way that we're gonna be able to heal the world is to rise together. We have to come together. And we called this Sophia Rising because of that elevation, like you were talking about, of consciousness needs to rise into that Sophia consciousness, which needs to spread over the world and become an overlapping consciousness that heals. And and that's where, Aphrodite energy and Athena energy comes into place, because it's the two together that's actually going to bring forth that energy. So, meaning it needs to be a wisdom and love. And those two parts have to come together, because what I've seen is those two parts are fighting. And wisdom is really hitting it hard in an area. Like, all these people are coming in, they're finding ancient scripts, they're finding ancient texts, they're learning ancient magic, and they're coming up and saying, "You guys have been fooled all this time. Wake up, wake up, wake up." And they're coming across extremely angry and really judgmental and kind of beating people up over the head. And then there's people who, like, love their belief that they had for a long time, or their religion, and they're fighting for that. Like, they're grinding their feet in the ground. And this division, it doesn't matter what it is anymore. People are just literally fighting over what yoga or weightlifting is better. It doesn't matter. They will ever And that's the rhythm that's happening right now. And we've got to make a change. And there may be people out there that feel like, they're channeling, or they're the incarnation of Athena or Aphrodite, and it really doesn't matter. All we're saying
Okay,
is,
bring it on. Let's
huh? Bring it
go.
on. Come up, join us. We can bring our collective together and share the wisdom, right? And share that love. What we're saying is that's what we're connected to in a very, very high vibration. And we've been told it's time to bring this out into the world. Now, I can tell you that I postponed this for a while. This is part of the reason why we haven't been active for a little while, is because it was very scary for me to come out and say, "Hey, I'm channeling Aphrodite." And that was hard. And it was scary, because I was afraid I was going to be, judged. And, you know, and that was something that I had to work on within myself. And
Me too, girl.
Mhm.
I mean, in my own way, right? I feel like I haven't been quiet about how challenging it has been for me to come back to social media, not just to come back after a 3-year hiatus, total hiatus. But then to try to be in a public sphere, like a public figure, that was so highly uncomfortable for me. I had to go through a lot of transformation to get to this point where I feel comfortable being myself. And every day I have to push myself. I have to question, why do I, if I find resistance towards something I want to post or present, I ask myself, why? Why? Where's that coming from? It's like dredging out my subconscious, but here's the thing, when you do that, right? When you do that, you become empowered. When you face the parts of yourself that are trying to hold you back, you reconcile those parts within yourself, you become empowered. And not only that, but then you can help other people too. We don't know how we touch other people's lives. I had a conversation
Mhm.
with a really good friend of mine from Facebook yesterday, who is also a content creator and influencer, and he told me, he just questions sometimes if the work that he's doing is relevant, because people have this idea that it's likes and shares and everything that are the litmus test for, your success. And I told him a story that I had not told him previously, which was when I came onto social media and I was struggling, you know, to get this, vision out and this word out. And I just felt like totally socially awkward. It was him. It was him who I first noticed, and that helped me to start transforming. Like he's so vulnerable, He's just so, to me, he's just so brave. He just puts out there what's on his mind, right? And he talks about his struggles. He talks about his inspirations. He puts pictures of himself out there. And to me, it was just like it was a shock for me to see something like that. And I told him, I was like, while I was interacting with your posts and stuff, there wasn't anything in there that would indicate to you how you were really inspiring me. But I'm telling you this now, right? And he was totally shocked. He had no idea, you
Mhm.
know, and and so I want people to understand that, right? There's a lot of content creators out there who are trying to change the world, right? We're trying to start working together. We're not living in our individual bubbles anymore. And we wonder, am I making a difference? Just know you are. You don't know. Not everybody's inclined to talk and get on and like and share and things like that. It's better if people do, just FYI to the audience, right? To help share and spread the word. You then become part of that movement. But, for those who are wondering if they're making an impact, you should know that you do. I've witnessed this over my lifetime, how, people touch other people's lives and they just don't even have any idea until much later.
That's true.
Stay inspired. Just know that you're doing the work of the divine,
Yeah.
right? Even if you hear nothing, it seems like crickets. If you're doing the true work, it's making an impact.
Oh, absolutely, I agree. I've actually had people tell me, like I had somebody, who made an appointment with me, and she told me when she showed up, she goes, "I've been following you for a very long time, and I finally got to be here with you, and it's so exciting." And I was just like, she goes, "I feel kinda starstruck." And I was like, "What?" And I was so surprised that she said that she had been following me, and it had been like 10 years. She had been following me for a long time. I've had multiple people. There's this one lady who now is pretty active on, like commenting all the time, sharing my stuff. But there was a point where she literally was a mouse for the longest, never commented. I didn't even know who she was until one day I was doing some workshop and I was doing it live, and I was asking people to volunteer, and I would put them up on the stage and work with them, and she showed up, And she said, "I just want to tell you, I love you so much. I've been following you for a long time, so I'm so excited to be here." I was like, "What?" I mean, and I had no idea because she was quiet. She never commented, she never liked, she never shared, she never none of those things. There are those people out there that are silent, you know? You're absolutely right. And you're right, if you're out there doing the work, just know that people are watching. People are getting it. So don't give up.
Yeah, and I want to make one final comment on that. One thing that I think is important for people like us who, the collective term that's colloquially used now are light workers, right?
Mhm.
Our target audience, I mean, we could say everybody, right? But really, our target audience are, people who are seeking to transform themselves.
Mhm.
And generally speaking, what I've witnessed over the years is people who finally get to the point where they want to transform are people who have gone through significant amounts of painful experiences and trauma. And they have hit a wall and they don't know how to get answers. And they finally it's like that idea of hitting rock bottom, right? They finally just realize, like, I have to do it myself. There
Mhm.
isn't going to be anyone out there that can fill an emotional gap for me. There's not going to be anyone out there that's going to solve my problems. While maybe certain pharmaceuticals or other things might kind of help, lift my spirits a little bit, they're not creating the stable eternal change that I need in my life to finally be happy, healthy, and thrive. So when you consider that that is really our target audience, many of those individuals, just like ourselves, right, um, may not be at a point where they feel like they can express themselves, or they might not be at a point where they feel like they can share content because they might be embarrassed, that of family members or work colleagues or something to see it, right? There's a number of reasons why people might not share the content, and that's why we all have to remain firm and steadfast in our message, right? Because we are coming we're coming to the end of a cycle here. We just are moving from Pluto and Capricorn, which is, essentially a transit that made people question, power structures. This is why we saw, all these, rises essentially in these like kind of like social groups, these populist movements, all came on the tail end of this huge financial crisis that hit the world right as Pluto entered Capricorn, essentially. All these social movements and reforms, and then the divisiveness, right? So people have set up essentially the foundation for questioning the old guard mentality, right?
Mhm.
Those power structures. Now we're entering into, Pluto and Aquarius, where we're going to leverage that questioning into real transformation. Aquarius is ruled by Uranus, right? Uranus is a very transformative planet. But, and sometimes, like with any transformation, the transformation might seem very shocking because everything now, not just power structures, everything now is being questioned, right? Reality is being questioned because people want to formulate a new reality. What comes after that? Pluto in Pisces. Pisces is going to be the end now of that cycle of Pluto,
Mhm.
or now moves back into Aries. So, over the next 40 years, we as a global community, as a collective consciousness, get to have the benefit of raising our consciousness to a level that we have not seen, that we do not have in our historical records. It's an amazing time. It may be very challenging and difficult, at some period, yeah, at some points in these final last phases, right? But if we continue to recognize, keep our eye on the prize, right? Our eye on the prize is elevating human consciousness, bringing humans together for the purpose of unity. Imagine if we as a collective human species stopped bickering and fighting and going to war and wasting our resources on war and divisiveness and hatred, what could we accomplish? Think
Oh
about,
my God. I know.
think
I
about
know.
what we accomplished just in that fallen state. But think about then, right, where we could go if we were working together. I mean, the thought of it's mind blowing to me. We could conquer, universes, multiverses. And when I say conquer, I don't mean it in the negative way. I'm just saying, like, we could expand ourselves in ways that we never conceived of.
Yeah, if we weren't wasting all our energy on arguing over who's right or wrong.
Wait, that's what I'm talking about.
Oh my God. Hey, this is our topic for our next show. So, I don't know if you have anything else that you want to tally up with this, but the main purpose of this particular show is to kind of tell you about our rebranding, tell you about what's coming up. Um, so, Athena and I are going to be really kind of giving you more knowledge. We're going to be helping you enter into that wisdom and love state and moving forward. Okay. I personally have a strong passion for the interpretation of the Bible. And there's been a lot of things mistranslated. And so I'm going to kind of be bringing a lot of this stuff up to the forefront. And I know that Athena actually has been studying Greek, and like, oh my God, your Greek is so good. It's like mind blowing. And and I know that there's a lot of research that you've been doing, and even you've taken some trips to Greece, and you're going to be taking more trips to kind of really acquire a little bit more of that ancient knowledge from ancient scripts, and being able to kind of get into some of the stuff that a lot of us are unaware of. So what we're really trying to do is bring forth greater knowledge and emotional, spiritual growth to the forefront. And do you have any closing words?
I do actually.
Okay.
Michaela and I have told you what our personal calling is, right? It's to
Mhm.
help facilitate movement towards greater unification in the collective consciousness, to remove illusion, to heal divisiveness, and to show people how they can raise their consciousness in order to do that. But the overall calling is huge. We cannot do it ourselves, right?
Mhm.
We need you. So my final comment is this. Look me in the eye right here. Okay?
Okay, I'm looking. I'm looking.
I'm calling you forth. Those of you who have a passion or feel a drive to help others, to lift others up, I'm calling you to join us. Join us. There's so many ways that you can work with us and that we can work together. If you want to be a part of this movement, contact us. Contact myself. Contact Michaela. You can tell us what your personal calling is. You can just say, hey, you know what? I don't know what my personal calling is, but I know I want to help you. I want to be there with you. We will work together. And if you're part of another tradition, religion, anything, just know we are about unification, right?
Mhm.
We want to demonstrate to the world that you can be a part of any tradition and we can still find common ground and respect each other in our own personal practices and elevate together, right? So don't be afraid. Just even on the down low, like private message us, I'm not ready to come out there yet, but I want to do something. Please come forward. If you want to be out there doing something, you want to do podcasts, research, whatever, call us, join us, right? We want to help you. Yeah, we're ready. We're ready to blow up. We're ready to make this big. We're ready to get everybody on the board for we rise together, and there's space for everyone.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much. That was wonderful. So I'm going to be putting all of our contact information in the description, so you'll be able to reach out to us. You'll be able to find us on Instagram, TikTok, um, Facebook, Facebook Messenger, emails, websites, all the above. So I'll put all that information in the description, so that you guys can find your way towards us. If you want to do a podcast with us, absolutely, just put your information in and like contact us, and we'll talk about it. And if you want to do it specifically, like with both of us or one of us, any of those things are available. Or if you just, like she said, you just want to show support and you want to go, how can I do that? How can I help us as a collective, as a world, rise up? And anything that you want to do is helpful. We're like she said, we can't do it alone. We need your help. And with that, with love and wisdom, we say goodnight.
Love you guys.